Hey, Omega.
Yes, Gunner.
So what would you do for a Klondike bar?
That's a tough one.
Would you rip down the Russian flag and then apologize for it the next day?
It seems like a win-win situation there.
Would you job out to a bulldog? A bulldog?
Yeah, I suppose.
Then you could potentially be the two strongest people in the fucking, technically strongest people in the fucking WWE right now, because, Jesus Christ, that was the worst. Why did you do that? You hit the wrong one. Let's start the show. 10 tons of steel. There's no time for joking around. It's quiet, double shadow. Be my face! Be my face! No life is louder. We're back to wrong. To track down the blue. You'll be good as laughing times if you only listen to. Woo! Get serious. Oh, whoa! Get serious. Oh, whoa! Get serious. Enough! Hey everybody, and welcome to wooo Serious. My name is Gunner, and that is Omega BR.
Personally, I like Magnum better.
So, and joining us this week also is our wonderful technical producer, Mr. Yankum DDS. Mr. I can't get my microphone to work 10 minutes before the show starts. Jesus Christ. Okay, that's more nerd than I care to get into today, so let's start with something that's a little more crass. The news! Vince McMahon has reportedly been micromanaging much more lately as a bug has flown up his ass, and he's wanted last week's Raw script entirely redone at 6:40 a.m., leaving it to be written as the show was on the air. He's been going back and forth about storyline syncing with Total Divas, also having a rule that no Total Diva can hold the Divas Championship, so pretty much squashes any sort of idea that a feud with a Total Diva will end up with them with the championship. There's also talk of a power struggle between Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, and George Barrios and Michelle Wilson. That's a tag team effort there. The latter two responsible for the launch of the WWE Network and the new TV deal, neither of which were as successful as hoped. Plans for Hell in the Cell may end up being John Cena versus Dean Ambrose as the pay-per-view opener, or on an upcoming Raw, with the winner facing Seth Rollins in the Cell, and the loser facing Randy Orton, or being the, quote, keeper of the key outside of the Cell. Basically, the person that gets to unlock the Cell or lock the Cell. However they see fit. All of it sounds terrible. All of it sounds terrible. And you can tell Vince is having his time of the month because the programming is getting worse.
You know, it was a really weird Raw this week. Last week I could see it. This week, strange as it is, you know, there were a lot of silly, goofy, kinda, are they really doing this type segments, but at the same time, as backwards as it is, I actually felt somewhat entertained. Maybe it's simply the effect of, nothing seems to happen on Raw for 5 weeks in a row, and then a bunch of goofy stuff on the 6th, and then, at least something is happening, be it bad or good.
Chicago crowds now, since CM Punk has left, have turned down dramatically. Dramatically.
No, I thought you were making up a word there. Dramatically.
That's actually a really good word. Dramatically. Yes, drastically and dramatically. That's what I meant to say. But yes, the Chicago crowd sucked, and I didn't want to hear CM Punk chants. No, of course they want more Punk.
It was surprisingly. Well, let's forget about all that. It was surprisingly sort of low key. There weren't a lot of big reactions for even, I think, Cena himself. I'll tell you what, though.
Caval wasn't there. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean,
was that the sound of you face palming on the microphone? There you go.
Anyway, what are we looking at here? Okay, power struggle between, really, Steph and Triple H, basically. There probably is sort of an uneasiness up there because, they kind of make it out as if Triple H is already in charge, but it's really not the case. Vince is still, you kind of write things for this audience. As a matter of fact, writers have come out and said, this is like, we work all week to sort of fill all this time with Raw and SmackDown and Superstars and all that other stuff. And then you send it to Vince, and you're really writing for an audience of one. And, if something needs to be changed, well, then it has to be changed. And, the result is, of course, not awful production, but certainly not as good as it could be.
Basically what's going on here at this point is that Vince, his age is showing. Sometimes he's really good, and he lets cool things happen, like CM Punk leaving, and whatnot. That was cool. But the problem becomes when when Vince basically loses his mind, and we're in that rut where he loses his mind because he has no idea what he wants to do, because he's kind of panicking because his 3 top guys that he tried to push in the past 18 months have all gone out the door in one fashion or another. And so he's trying to build a company, and he's going kind of crazy because he can't really build off of someone. I mean, you look at Ambrose, and Ambrose's star has shined even brighter now that Reigns has left. And you look at Seth, and Seth is just being Seth, which is pretty awesome. But at the same time, it's like, with the Mastodon that we're pushing down our throats, and the imminent return of Daniel Bryan, where are they going to fit in once 2 months have gone by, and those two have been pushed to the moon?
Yep. Now let's move on, because I'm kind of fading out here. Speaking of the moon, its number one resident, Dixie Carter, is apparently hoping for a live Impact on January 7th on whatever network they happen to end up on, which could even be CMT. It's the latest rumored network.
It would work. They would get their 1 million. much.
Did you just say TNA?
Did we really just bring this in here? Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, one and all. The one and only Swearface has decided to show up to a bit serious. Hello, Swearface.
Oh, I saw this from okay, might as well pop in. Well, I hope it will be better than the tapings that took place in have you been over the numbers for that?
We haven't gone over numbers or anything like that yet, no, but, oh boy. Oh boy.
Right, the numbers, okay. So what we're watching right now, there's practically nobody watching, because on the first day of taping, they had 350 turn up. On the second day, they had 200. On the next day, 275. And the day after that, 650. And supposedly, the one with 275, the attendance was heavily papered. And this was all taped in 4 days, and they've not even got enough to show the whole of 2014. They're going to stop at some point in December. We're just going to have to show clip shows instead.
Clip shows. Oh, we know how much we love those clip shows. Mind you, oh my god, why don't you read the rest of the news, because there's a lot more than just TNA going live on January 7th. Because there's something more important going live on January 4th.
Well, we have Bound for Glory, which we haven't heard too much about this year. They've just recently announced the match lineup. TNA apparently is paying for their own talent for Bound for Glory, with Russell One handling the rest, including production and all that good stuff, before they mail the tape over to Nashville. Bobby Lashley and the Wolves will not be on the show. The Wolves, because of, I believe it was Davey Richards' injury. And Jimmy Suzuki had previously mentioned there might not be room for the Knockouts. However, Havoc vs. Velvet Sky is now scheduled. We mentioned before Josh Matthews being at TNA headquarters. He was likely already working with TNA officially, possibly debuting on TV after they secure their new deal, whatever that may be. And Ring of Honor's Bobby Cruz was meeting with them as well, apparently frustrated that Scarlett Bordeaux has been doing more of the announcing over at ROH. And then, of course, what Gunnar was alluding to, it's that Jeff Jarrett's Global Force Wrestling announced their first pay-per-view, which is going to be their presentation of New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom, live from the Tokyo Dome on January 4th, 2015. Of course, they'll air it live and then the standard replays afterwards.
I am looking forward to this. My body is ready.
It's a fairly big deal, a fairly big coup for GFW.
Literally the second biggest promotion in the world right now, New Japan Pro Wrestling, coming over to the United States on actual pay-per-view.
I hope, because if you don't know already, the youth series is no longer going to provide pay-per-views. So the likes of New Japan and Dragon Gate, you'll want your own pay-per-views that people won't even pay for because they'll go pirate them elsewhere. Well, you don't have to do that on January 4th. If you can watch it courtesy of GFW. You don't know if there's going to be English commentary. Maybe it could, because the only one person who is particularly interested in doing English commentary for New Japan. But will it happen or not? Who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw English commentary, and, all and apparently, from what I understand, it's going to be GFW branded. So it's not going to be New Japan. It's just going to be GFW, which would be interesting. Who would they have available to be able to do commentary? I wonder.
Why don't Jim Ross wants to do commentary? I look at that. Well, I don't see it.
Wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, actually, Jim Ross is doing something for an MMA thing, I believe. But that's neither here nor there. And speaking of things coming back, Roman Reigns, Daniel Bryan, and perhaps even Batista will be back to the WWE in time for WrestleMania season. Although Batista was just cast in Robert De Niro's upcoming heist flick, Bust 657. WWE also hired Canadian broadcaster Arda Ocal, now Kyle Edwards, great NASCAR name right there, Renee Young's former broadcast partner. Los Matadores in El Torito will work the WWC 41st anniversary show in Puerto Rico, as a clause in their contract allows them to work certain WWC shows. Alberto El Patron is also working that event and may join Angela Fong, Brian Cage, and possibly the original Sin Cara at the next Lucha Underground tapings. Apparently, due to budget cuts, WWE are only paying $100 a night to indie talents as opposed to $250 for appearing on screen, usually as security or rosebuds. Weren't you guys rosebuds last week? Some of them. Keyword there is some of them.
It could be this. It could be working with TNA show, but probably just be getting a pack of biscuits and, I don't know, a dog toy at this point.
And it was the best grossing movies of this year. You know, go figure. He gets himself into an actual movie role. Pretty much. Well, if this was like 10, 15 years ago, De Niro was kind of slid. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, it's probably a big coup for Batista himself.
At least it's actual movies not pouring over food. And the true answer, I think, all that want to know how they get into the fit. Unless he does the text scenes in the film, I don't know.
Alrighty then. Well, suppose we'll move right along. Seems that the WWE Network, you remember that, don't you, is reportedly facing problems in Canada, where they are fighting to stay on television. Apparently the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, that's right, the CRTC, feels that the network is stepping on the toes of other channels in Canada, such as the Fight Network. Interestingly, there hasn't been too much fanfare on the United Kingdom's launch of the network, which apparently was delayed until at least November 1st, due to, quote, discussions with potential partners. Of course, the UK, arguably the second biggest market for the network besides America. WWE.
I'll potentially argue that Canada is the bigger market, but, you know.
Well, Canada's getting fucked by Rogers. But it's looking to be fucked by Stag and Wood, but the thing more coverage than what Rogers has. Rogers is in a tiny portion of Canadians that are resident the country.
Yeah.
And Sky Sports is also available on other platforms such as 13BT, so it would be up to the very clever vendors that would want a TV network on their server, so what would be instead.
Plus, you look at the just how well wrestling, even just how well TNA does in the United Kingdom, to see just how big they are on wrestling and such.
It's the only place where you actually get filled crowds at this point.
Speaking of crowds, the WWE 2K15 video game might even see a PC release this time. And stars Corey Grave, Adrian Neville, and Sami Zayn from NXT are in the game, so that's nice. Prince Devitt has reported to NXT, and he will now be known as Finn Balor. We told you last week about the releases. Some thought that Kendall Sky could be WWE's version of Ronda Rousey due to her kickboxing background. Even talk of bringing her up as some kind of bodyguard for AJ Lee before she was released. And Troy McClane was actually seen as somewhat safe because he was spotted by John Cena himself at a gym. Not much luck for the John Cena guy there.
I'm sorry.
That's
Stupid?
Well, here's the thing, it was stupid at the start.
I love it. It's a good name.
It was stupid at the very start when people were going, oh, what the fuck, this is James Smash for it. So but if you do your research, it has meaning to it. Finn McClane is this Irish superhero many years ago, and they were supposed to seem to have evil eyes or something that really can save them and would be dead or something. But it's just basically, the name does have Irish connotations, but people respect it similar, so the NXT name is just going to embarrass them for the rest of their career. And now it's going to get released if they don't get used. Devitt going to get used, Cantor will get used, Sting, well, it's Sam Callahan, was it Solon Pope? So his name is ended, but they've not been put on TV once. Wasn't he supposed to be a big deal? He's probably going to get released.
There are worse names. I think it's one of those names that sounds weird at first, but then you just get used to it. Like pretty much everything else they do, I mean, I don't know.
We all stopped at Luke Harper.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that.
Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, Hideo Itami.
Yeah, did you know about the Hideo Itami thing? Triple H wanted the names to be kept, then say no because look what happened. The disputes are having a CM Punk sending a 22-page legal there because of him being 2014-15. So what they do in response to the merchandising there that his announcement that he's going to be in the game, and they just removed the page at all. It's just CM Punk and nothing at all. But they just want to own the names. That's why Kenta couldn't be Kenta anymore and Vince Devitt couldn't be Vince Devitt.
Personally, I think the split between names is actually beneficial for both parties, because not only do you might be one thing in WWE, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's where you're going to have your biggest and brightest matches. I mean, take a look at Devitt, for example. I mean, we've got him here in the WWE now, but before, his biggest matches was definitely in New Japan, and he's Prince Devitt there, and if you were looking at his beginnings, it's Fergal Devitt, and in the UK and whatnot. So I mean, having a new name for a new promotion doesn't exactly strike me as the most odd thing or the worst thing that you could possibly do. It's just a change. And when people talk about, oh, this name's terrible and we shouldn't use it, it's just people kind of belly aching because it's change. Alright, let's wrap this up here. Daniel Bryan has topped the annual PWI 500. ECW Original Sandman will face former 49er Lee Woodall in a celebrity boxing match on November 8th in Broomall, Pennsylvania. Juventud Guerrera, Juicy, is working as a DJ in Mexico, hoping to do sets during wrestling shows. A new sitcom called Wrestling with Joey Licious will follow a low-level indie star whose daydreams that wrestling legends are his mentors. Well, I really, really hope that Joey Licious has something to do with Wrestlelicious, because that would be funny. Featuring Mick Foley, Jimmy Snuka, Roddy Piper, and Tito Santana as themselves. Yanka must be happy.
Could be interesting. It was kind of surprising.
No, it's not a surprise at all.
I think Randy Orton was number 2. Which, granted, it's a kayfabe list, but, that's still a little,
Here, I'll find the list. It's for you!
Of course, Juventud is working as a DJ. If they had a Mexican Jersey Shore, he would be on it.
He would be. And he would be the most over person in the whole world. Yeah, kinda.
Cancun, perhaps? I guess Cancun's more like Key West or somewhere in Florida.
Still looking for...
While you're looking for that, why don't you start our...
Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, John Cena... Well, let's start the 15-minute time limit. We'll talk about this. 15-minute time limit, where we dedicate 15 minutes while talking about a particular topic. And this week we're going to talk about the PWI 500 and potentially some stuff that happened on Raw. Sound good? Bueno. Okay, so 2014 PWI 500 top 10. Here you go. Number 10, Bully Ray. Number 9, Adam Cole. Number 8, Magnus. Number 7, Roman Reigns. Number 6, Bray Wyatt. Number 5, Kazuchika Okada. And number 4, AJ Styles. Number 3, John Cena. Number 2, Randy Orton. And number 1, Daniel Bryan. Now you have to remember that Randy Orton got up there pretty early on in the year with his, first ever WWE World Heavyweight Championship reign that lasted until WrestleMania. So I'm not terribly surprised he's up there, but he's had a really shitty year otherwise. What do you guys think? Say again? I don't think Punk is on the list. No.
So you don't know what's what I'm doing?
Seems about right, I suppose. I mean, Orton is like I was saying, Orton is number 2 is a little... Granted, he was champion for quite a bit there. I don't know. I guess that's about right. It always seems like you almost forget that Orton was champion because he never seems to really do that much, even when he is champion.
Exactly. He's definitely used as a paper champion, and what people forget, and he's a forgettable character. I mean, he's not exactly the most prominent feature in all of WWE. I would argue that he has the same sort of popularity and heat as a Sid Vicious. Because, Sid was pretty popular in his time. He was pretty crazy, but he never was like, number 1, even when he was number 1.
Yeah. He always seems to be a part of the, he's probably the least notable member of the Authority right now, even a little bit lower than Corporate Kane, just because it seems like his only recourse is this idea that he's still owed a title rematch or a singles match or whatever. I don't even remember what it is at this point.
Always about the happiness you had of it and then number 2 stuff.
Like I said, he was in the main feud. He was brought to prominence by everything that's been going on with his with what he had been up to, basically. I'm not. This isn't surprising. It's because he was the main WWE guy that Daniel Bryan was chasing, and the main heel, of late 2013, early 2014. The show was built around him, and Cena kind of was just off to the side. That's why he's so low on the list at this point.
Well, I don't. It's not something. It's just a point of interest, really. It's not something to take extremely seriously. One thing you could say about Orton, creatively, even though he's not the strongest person, he doesn't get thrown into the most interesting of feuds. At least he's a trooper, he does go out there every night, and, you talk about Cena's work ethic, Orton pretty much does the same thing, he's around, his character is kind of stilted and everything, but he is out there, he is, and he can be intense too. It seems like every week they kind of stop on this idea that Orton's gone soft, and then he has to do something to kind of remind people that he's back, and then they kind of forget and repeat. But he does do intense very well. That whole cinder block thing, slamming people into the announce tables, RKO on the table, that kind of thing.
It's like he has to constantly remind everyone that he's still there, he's still over, and he's still the Viper. And no matter how hard people try, he just kind of, slithers away.
They need to find something better for him to do. They need to maybe some kind of extended feud or something. Something that. And it's not all his fault, because, as we've been talking about creatively, it seems like they don't really know what to do with people, and then you kind of seg this into Raw this week with some of the silliness and stuff. We had the Bunny back and Hornswoggle as the Gator, and I don't know if you realize this, but we had 3 Divas matches on the show.
Yeah, that was it's like it's the way to actually, because obviously WWE said that the Chicago crowd is going to have Jack Hitler. We got shot at the start when they did the CM Punk chance. You're cheering for quitters, with you, quitters and stealers like Dean Ambrose. Either that, or they just really want to promote Total Divas.
Yeah, and kind of like what I was talking about earlier, at least it felt like things were happening on the show. I think they've really kind of flubbed this whole Paige AJ feud, but, at least the Bellas are sort of in a feud, I guess, kind of. It's kind of interesting. Well, not interesting, but at least...
Okay. Hold the phone. Do you want to know who number 500 was?
Grado.
That's right. It was fucking Grado.
I was dancing that, by the way.
Yes, you did. Fucking Grado, fucking 500. That's fucking amazing.
Grado is going to be in the second season Team Leaders boot camp, which is starting soon. You're going to win a Team Lead contract, or you're to appear in a company that may not have a Team Lead deal in January. But Grado and obviously get a chance. Well,
let's put it this way. The list is the list is already the top 10 to top 50 really are ones that matter, and then that's their opinion of who they believe did the best in that particular year, judging from one arbitrary date to another. And then the rest of it is politicking and how much of indie exposure that they actually have to these particular group of people, and potentially how much money particular individuals paid to be higher up or on the list. This is kind of a thing.
So I'm just curious, when you were going on about Raw, have you paid any attention to the return of Susan G. Komen?
It's something they're going to do. It's something they're going to bring up 1,000 times a show, just like they do the network and everything. It's not even worth getting upset about, just because,
I say this, I bet we're going to do a deal where if you buy the WWE network this month, suddenly your associates will go to Susan G. Komen, and that almost means that 5% of the money to actual tax and sets of us goes to the Komen staff. So I don't know.
Well, we all know about the fucking scam that is Susan G. Komen at this point. And if you don't know, we've been talking about it for a couple of years. So, one more thing. Okay, last thoughts before we actually... What? it does not. It does not mean a glorious mustache, but you know what it does mean.
We could paint one on. We could paint a cosmic mustache on.
Well, I mean, if you were looking for that, go look at the vaudevillains. I'm just saying.
Speaking about we got new theme music with NXT taking, so we have a good feeling of continue next.
Okay, last feelings go around the board. Finish the sentence. When Dean Ambrose came out to the middle of the ring this week, I was blank. Or my BR.
Pretty impressed, because I think he has a great kind of promo presence. The things that he's saying, kind of, people pay attention. The dig at the security guys, pretty much everything. I think he could be really on track to be the next kind of top guy.
Swordface.
I was entertained because of the stuff like he was making reference to the cruiserweight division, and he was saying that the security were most punch and wrestling. Like, he's just trying to entertain people. They're really perfect, I guess. And it's just like the whole thing with Anvil this week was pretty good.
And Yankum. Did you even catch the segment otherwise? I mean, we've had a couple days for you to actually catch the segment.
There is a condemned version of Raw that is getting focused on Wood nowadays. You should have a look at that. It's got no calling adverts and promos and that. You should always have a look at that if you don't have the time to spend the whole footage of Raw.
You know what I don't have the time for? Dinner. So I want some ice cream. Do you want some ice cream, Yankum? Omega.
What?
Dairy Queen drive-thru. Yankum with the ratings. I'm clenching. Wait, what? And with the birthdays, everyone really tired swole face.
Okay, hold on.
You're reading the birthdays.
October the 1st, Vico, Robert E, Hector Canoe, and Devin Moore. On the 2nd, Jen Akiyama, El Gandhi, and Yokozuna. The 3rd, Philip Bob Armstrong, Danny Basham, Michael Bax, John Morrison. 4th of this, Mike Hadley, you know, the guy who saved Jeff Harvey that one day. Mallory Pidon, Chief James Strongbow. The 5th, Zena Allen, Terry. 6th, Virginia, Dixie Carter, Barry Darswell, Bruno Salatino. 7, Caitlin. Is this really the name?
Yes.
Okay. The 7th, My Dixieette. Well, I'm sure it can be under. I'm sure it can be one of those developmental names for NXT.
Probably.
If we can have some Baylor, we can have My Dixieette.
Well, and now it is time for This Week in Wrestling with Omega BR.
Yes, this week in wrestling history, circa 1957, where Toru Yamada defeats Cyclone Ayana for the NWA Southern Junior Heavyweight title in Nashville, Tennessee. The belt had been vacated a month earlier by Mario Gelento for not defending the title within the 30-day limit. Jump to 1979, where Tatsumi Fujinami ends Ryoma Go's 2-day reign as WWF Junior Heavyweight Champion by defeating him in Tokyo, Japan, regaining the title himself. Fujinami's second reign with the gold would end when he vacates the title and moves into the heavyweight division. And in 1985, the longest tag team title reign in the career of the Road Warriors comes to an end. After over a year as AWA World Tag Team Champions, Hawk and Animal would lose the titles to Jim Garvin and Steve Regal in St. Paul, Minnesota, when Freebird Michael Hayes interfered, costing the Warriors the match. And that was This Week in Wrestling History.
Hey, it's my segment now. Happy trails. Happy trails to the Honky Tonk Man after he claimed on Twitter last Monday that WWE is trying to prevent him from using that name, challenging to sue him before he sues them. And happy trails to Hulk Hogan once again. I believe if you look back on all of our episodes, Hulk Hogan appears the most. Hulk Hogan is Hulk Hogan in Hogan's Beach after TMZ posted an article about the restaurant's dress code, accusing of being racist for prohibiting certain clothing, including do-rags and bandanas, despite Hogan wearing one himself constantly. Hogan claims he didn't know about the dress code and got rid of it. Okay, well, at least he fixed it. First thing that he's fixed in a while. Oh! What did you watch this week in wrestling? Well, if you are a long-time listener of the Movie Serious podcast, I will literally buy you a t-shirt off of any ProWrestlingTees.com/whatever wrestler that you enjoy, or, something off of Barbershop Window. If you were able to tweet us the actual statistics of of how many people have been in the Happy Trails segment and how many times people have been in the Happy Trails segment. Sometimes there hasn't been any, sometimes there has, so we don't know. You can tweet us at smartsnark.com, but let's get to what do we watch this week in wrestling, Mr. Yankum DDS. not sure. It sounds pretty close. Swordface, what should we watch this week in wrestling?
Who would have matched you? Tara, Angelina Walk, ODB, and Mad versus Beautiful People, which consists of Lisa Dominic, Madison Lady Davis, Sky, Daphne, XB8 Knockout Elimination Tag Team Walk Challenge for TNA Knockouts Championship given TNA in 2010. It's they became the Leadership Championship by picking the run box.
And Omega BR, which we watch this week in wrestling.
Well, see if you can't check out this year's Wrestle Kingdom to see if you can get an idea of what we're in for when Mobile Force Wrestling presents Wrestle Kingdom later on, a few months from now. I believe we're on Wrestle Kingdom 7?
Yes, we're on 7. Next year will be 8.
Yes.
End of the week, I am going to suggest the 2-hour, 5-minute, 42-second Island Death match between Antonio Inoki and Masa Saito. They fought all over Ganrijima Island in Japan. This happened on October the 4th, 1987. It's a 12-parter, and you can find it on YouTube. Holy crap, watch the whole thing. Yes, I really watched the whole thing. I can't believe I watched the whole thing. I guess that's it. Yeah? So, thank you all for listening. You can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/SmartSnark, twitter.com/SmartSnark. You can check us out on YouTube.com/SmartSnark, and you can check us out some old podcasts and whatnot. Spreaker, we're on every Tuesday or Wednesday, one of those days at around 9 p.m. Eastern. We're real fuzzy about that time, so, don't expect us on the dot. That's pretty much it. So, we'd like to wish you well in your past, present, and future endeavors.
And good night to Capriton.